YouTube, which is better, inbound calls or outbound calls? Today's going to spark an interesting debate. My name is Dylan Starr. Welcome to the channel. And if you were here, you've been following me for a while, you know how important it is to me to be the top 3% in anything and everything that I do. One of them being in the industry of sales and the industry of closing. I personally believe that if you are in the top 3% and mastering this as a skill, then you are going to level up when it comes to other people, other entrepreneurs, and all of your competitors, really focusing on not being average. So welcome to the channel. My name is Dylan Starr. I'm head of sales for Team Live Rich. And on our team, we work with 7-figure and 10-figure influencers, and we utilize both avenues of this, right? Inbound and outbound. So this is going to be sparking an interesting debate. So definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments below on which one you think is better and why. But I'm going to be actually diving into this, let you know our experience that we've had as our team and the results, kind of comparing the two. And then, of course, you can still decide for yourselves. Let's get into it. Inbound versus outbound. So first of all, what is inbound, right? Inbound is actually a call that is received. So someone was to call me out of the blue right now for business purposes or anything related to business, right? Because I'm receiving it, it's considered an inbound, right? Very simple to understand. But also, we also consider inbound calls that are requested. So right now, maybe you have your own business, maybe you're an entrepreneur, or you're closing for somebody else. If a prospect were to go through your website or go through your sales funnel and they request a call, they actually go in and schedule a time with you. Yes, if someone schedules a time with me, I'm still calling them, but it's still considered inbound because they know that it is happening, right? They requested the phone call, so we still consider that an inbound call. So outbound, what is outbound? Obviously the opposite of inbound, right? It's exactly how it sounds. You're calling somebody out of the blue. They're not expecting it, right? Some refer to this as cold calling in the industry, right? Because nobody knows you, nobody likes you, no one trusts you, they don't know anything about you. But our teams go for warm calling. We actually don't do cold calling. We don't just call people out of the blue who have never heard of us or our influencers. We'll get into that later slides, but so just know that outbounding is just picking up the phone, dialing somebody out of the blue who is not expecting it, okay? And so let's go into the pros and cons of both of these. So inbound pros, right? If you have inbound into your business right now, or maybe you're on an inbound team and you're watching this video, most people actually prefer this, right? Because you have more leveraging power, right? If somebody calls me out of the blue, I don't really have to, if somebody's calling me out of the blue right now and asking me for help, I don't really have to sell them on why I'm the best fit. I mean, you called me, you're in my house, right? So the second part here, we have the power and authority frame because you're calling me, you're in my house, you're in my time, right? I have all the leverage, I have all the power, I have all the authority because you called me out of the blue. It's almost like walking in through to, being a guest in someone else's house, right? If you show up to somebody else's house as a guest, right? Who has the authority? Not the guest, it's the person that is hosting the event, right? Common sense. And through scheduling, you also know when to be prepared for the call. So if someone books on my calendar as an inbound, and I know it's coming up an hour from now, I can do my homework, I can do my research, and I can prepare for the call. So that is a pro of inbound. So let's go ahead and get into the cons, inbound cons. Right now in the industry, you're, I think, looking anywhere an average of anywhere from 30 to 50% of a no-show rate, right? So what's a no-show? That just means if someone schedules a call and then you go and reach out to them and they don't show up, that means that they no-showed, right? Marketing funnel and testing is really difficult. I know people make it sound easy in the industry when it comes to it, but I'm telling you from experience and working with tons of other influencers, it is not. Actually mastering marketing, getting your funnel, getting your conversions to be able to get quality leads takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of money through testing, especially ramping up if you're using it for social media. So because of that, you can't really control your income. You can if you're the business owner and you're getting conversions without leveraging somebody there to close the deal, right? You can have predictable income there of knowing how many people are convert. But to get to that top line, if you're doing this and you're watching this video and you're interested in actually closing for somebody else, another person's product or service, whether that be a business, maybe you're in sales for a company, or you're closing for an influencer like what we do with our team, let me give you an example, right? So if your goal were to make $5,000 per month, right? Okay, that's your goal, right? And let's say you had 5 booked appointments during your day. So you had a 5-hour window. Typically, let's say the call takes anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour, sometimes 30 minutes, that's fine. But you book them out and you have 5 hours dedicated Monday through Friday. And because of the unpredictability of no-shows and things like that of that nature. You have 2 no-shows, let's say one person cancels, then, you only have 2 shots for a close, right? So obviously you can do the math. You know how many booked appointments, you know your numbers at the end after doing this after a while, right? But you don't really have control over whether or not you're going to hit your 5K per month goal, right? Unless you really open up your calendar more. But again, because of the no-shows and unpredictability, it's really hard to actually control whatever your income goal is when you're just focusing on inbounds. So cons continued. Also, this is a really big one that we have noticed on our team, and this is maybe something you probably haven't thought about if you're watching this video, if you have your own business or not, is you can only take so many bookings in a day, right? So there's a gap that goes in between future prospects, and it actually kills your momentum, meaning that they cool down. What do I mean by that? So let me give you an example. Right now, if it's, let's say today is Monday and a prospect goes to my calendar and they want to book and schedule a call, right? But they notice that my booking is full for today and it's also full for tomorrow. So Monday's full, Tuesday is full, and they're like, okay, I'm busy on Wednesday, so I'm gonna have to schedule for Thursday. That means whatever they were interested in speaking to me about, right? That's almost 72 hours of a gap of time that is going by before that prospect actually speaks to me, because today is Monday in this scenario, right? So 72 hours means if they were excited, they booked the calendar, whatever it is that they saw, whatever they were interested in discussing with me about, now they're not as interested. Like, there's so many factors coming in between the gap of these 3 days, right? Life happens, it's on the back of their mind, they're not as excited anymore, so they cool down. Right? They're hot immediately, but that's the downside of inbound, is when you book out your calendar, you can only take so many bookings, and the more gap and space in between time. So if today's Monday and someone books for Friday, right, that's catastrophic. Now Friday, I run into a high chance of a prospect no-showing. I run into a high chance of them either canceling or forgetting about it, or even worse, they show up, but they're just not as excited as they were when they booked the day of. So that is another con of inbounds, okay? So while we're on cons, before I get into the pros of outbound from what we've seen, I want to go straight into the cons of outbound. Let's go ahead and bring up the elephant in the room, okay? I know you're thinking it if you're watching this video, right? What are the cons of doing outbounds? Just reaching to somebody out of the blue. Obviously, it requires a higher level of skill, right? Because you're stepping on their turf. You're on their territory. You're going to their house, right? A good example, actually did an awesome live stream on my Facebook yesterday. There was a kid that's only 19 years old that was going around on a bike. He's from another country, and he was going door to door, right? So you talking outbound sales. This kid was knocking on people's door, right? Cold knocking. And it's in Florida, super hot outside. I could tell he was dehydrated. He was tired. He's been out for 12 hours. I actually had an appointment during the day, and I told him, I'm like, dude, I'm so sorry. I have a meeting coming up in 10 minutes. And he's like, okay, well, when are you going to be done? And I told him probably around 6:30. So 6:30 comes, completely forgot about it. 7:30 comes, and I get a knock on the door, and I was like, wait a second, no way. Did the kid really come back? So the kid actually showed up like he was supposed to for the follow-up. I could tell he was super nervous, but that takes a lot of courage, right? And right here, uncomfortable for most people. You think picking up the phone and dialing? I mean, this kid was going door to door, knocking on people's doors in the neighborhood, had no sales for the day. I invited him to my house. We did a live stream just because I was so impressed from this kid only being 19 years old and having the courage to go knock on somebody's door. And I actually didn't need the product. It was educational books for kids. My girlfriend has kids, and they don't really need it. But because I was so impressed by his hustle and his work ethic, I went ahead and purchased the product. We did an awesome live stream and just told him to keep it up, really boosted him. He felt really good about himself, which made me feel amazing, of course, as well. And so I really love it when people have the hustle to be able to go to that level, especially a kid at 19. So there's big things in the future for that kid. Absolutely. But also, of course, with outbound, right, it's a higher volume of numbers game, right? Whether I'm picking up the phone and dialing, or even worse for him going door to door, he had already been there about 12 hours. I was probably his only sale for the day because I know it was the first one and it was late at night. So he's been to so many houses, high volume, knocking door to door in houses. And then, let's say it was 30 homes, and then he got a sell for me. So 1 out of 30. So now he kind of knows his numbers, but it's going to be higher volume in numbers compared to inbound. It just is what it is. So that's one of the cons of inbounds. So what are the pros of inbounds? What's the good thing about picking up the phone and then just dialing? Well, the pros is you can actually control your income. And remember the example before I told you about $5,000 per month, right? Now it's actually more attainable because you can just dial and pick up the phone, whether you have the skill or not, and let math work in your favor, right? The numbers, it's the law of averages, right? It's a real thing. It doesn't matter how bad you are, how brand new to it you are, or if you have experience. You can be absolutely horrible when it comes to outbound. You can absolutely suck, but as long as you're putting in the numbers and you are dialing, you are going to be able to print money on demand. I mean, it's practically like an ATM machine because you get to control your schedule and you can also control your income, right? You don't have to wait and rely on a scheduled call and someone no showing and then sit there twiddling your thumbs, right? You can just pick up the phone and dial. The other benefit of it is you can actually turn outbound calls into inbound. So if I know I have a window of time from 2 to 4 p.m. and I'm like, okay, cool. Instead of waiting on this inbound call, I have free time. I'm gonna pick up the phone, I'm gonna dial. If I get a hold of somebody and they're busy, well, great. And hey, no worries. I know you're busy right now. When's a good time that we can actually talk where I can have your full attention and focus on X, Y, Z? Now I can go to my calendar and say, hey, look, I have an availability for tomorrow evening at this time. Boom, just turned an outbound call into an inbound call. Get them in the calendar. I can even send them a booking link and have them answer a list of questions as an application, a questionnaire. And just like that, boom, outbound call turned into inbound. Now I have more leveraging power. And of course, finally at the bottom here, learning curve is actually way more significant. You learn way faster when it comes to actually mastering closing as a skill because it's higher volume. And as we all know, when it comes to being successful, when it comes to being in the top 3% compared to average people, the more uncomfortable you are, right? The more growth potential that you have. So of course, picking up the phone and calling somebody out of the blue is way more uncomfortable than it is to just having somebody, you're expecting a phone call and someone's reading out to you, or you're calling somebody who's expecting it, right? So the more uncomfortable you are, the faster you're going to grow. That's another awesome pro when it comes to outbounds. Now, what is the verdict of this from our team, right? We're closing for eight plus figure entrepreneurs. We utilize inbound and outbounds. We have an inbound team, we have an outbound team. So when we're about a year in now, we're on pace to close about $1 million in sales. And we've looked at the numbers. We have awesome graphs and charts where we actually test out for our team. And we compared the two, and it's actually mind-blowing the difference that we've had on our team, and I'm about to share that with you right now. Outbound, guys, and ladies and gentlemen, I mean, outbound dominates by far. Outbound wins. Like it's not even a small inkling of change. Like the gap is huge, and here's why. Revenue is actually 7x plus, sometimes higher than 7x, higher than our inbounds. What does this mean? To put it into perspective is, let's say if you have your own business and you do have an inbound team, right? You take an inbound scheduled calls and you do $100,000 in a year, right? You make about $100K in revenue just from inbound calls alone. If you were to add outbounds to calling prospects who didn't buy your offer, who never scheduled with you, who didn't purchase, and you just reached out to them out of the blue, that means you would have an additional 700,000 plus in revenue on top of what you already made. So if you are doing inbounds and you're watching this video and let's say you did make $100K, that means you add an additional 700,000, which puts you at over $800,000 in revenue. That is absolutely nuts. Insane, the difference that it makes in revenue in terms of just picking up the phone and dialing. And the reason being, if you're wondering why is that, why could that be, is because think about it from your prospect's perspective, right? If somebody's going in through your system, if they're going to your website or they're going to your funnel, they're watching your video and they're really interested, they're curious about your product, they're curious about your service, right? But they didn't buy and they didn't schedule, 9 times out of 10, it's just because they just had one question, one or two things going on in their mind that they just wanted answered, that they just needed address, that you just so happened didn't address in your funnel or your video. And if you had somebody just pick up the phone and just simply say, hey, we noticed that you just saw the training and stuff, but you didn't get a chance to, join our team. And we just wanted to reach out and see how we can help you, give you value, and see if you had any questions, right? Most of the time prospects are like, oh my gosh, yeah, I loved it, but my biggest concern was XYZ. You cover the XYZ, then all of a sudden, boom, that's a sell that you would not have had, right? Because the prospect didn't schedule and they didn't buy. So instead of letting those leads of people for your business or your influencer or the company you are working for in sales, instead of just letting them go to waste, you just pick up the phone, you reach out to them. There's literally tons of money on the table from that gap of people who didn't schedule and didn't buy from you. And these numbers actually show it. We have proven this from the entire year that we've been doing this. It's absolutely insane, right? Outbound skill is, hey, let's call it what it is. Due to higher skill demand for outbound, our team, we have an advantage over other closing teams, right? Most people and most teams out there that do want to close for influencers or close for other businesses, they aren't willing to actually pick up the phone and call a list of leads of people who showed interest, but they didn't buy. Most people are scared, right? And it's really not that much different than an inbound, right? When you get comfortable and you get used to this, it's actually pretty fun. A lot of our team prefers doing outbound over inbound. If you master this as a skill and you are interested in finding influencers, guess who has the advantage? Right? Obviously, the person who's willing to pick up the phone. Because if you go to another influencer, if you go to an entrepreneur, you go to a business owner, right? And let's say you're job hunting. I don't care if you're trying to get a sales job, and the sales job is inbound, right? Let's say there's a sales position of people that have scheduled calls and they want you to sell, whatever. I don't care if it's vacuum cleaners. I don't care if it's IT, whatever it is. But you go to them and they have so many interviews going, and you show up to an interview and you say, hey, you know what? Instead of me applying for this, I really want to prove myself first. Instead of me just taking these scheduled calls, I would like to just have a list of people who actually went through your system but didn't book a call with you and didn't schedule. I'd like to call those people just to prove myself to you, just to show you that I'm willing to put in the effort and I'm willing to put in the time and the energy, right? That job interview, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, like seriously? Like you stand out above the rest, right? That's why we stand out above the rest. That's why I stand out above the rest when it comes to this as a skill and other people. And influencers absolutely love this because there's no risk to them whatsoever, right? Those leads were people who didn't buy. They're just, to them, it's dead, right? But if you're willing to pick up the phone and dial them, they have nothing to lose because the leads didn't purchase anyways, right? So you become way more valuable. Also, you can charge higher percentages per close if you are using this as a skill for closing for other people and other businesses, right? The inbound industry right now is anywhere from 10 to 12%. Our inbound team, they get about 10% for closes, right, on the inbound team. But our outbound team, because it's a higher skill and you're more valuable to the marketplace, guess what you get to do? You can ask for higher percentages. So our outbound team gets anywhere from 25 to 35+%. Yes, we have some other influencers where we have packages, we get more than 35%. In fact, I have business partners and arrangements with other companies in SEO and social media marketing and stuff where I do outbound and I get 50%. Not only 50% of the close, but also month to month retainer. Why? Because outbound is a valuable skill. I'm willing to pick up the phone and dial and reach out to somebody to close a deal. So I'm valuable in the marketplace. Therefore, I can get higher percentages compared to somebody else who just wants to do inbound. So that obviously, makes me valuable, and the percentages, hey, it's a lot more money, right? And of course, let me give you guys a little trick if you're watching this. I want to give you guys some value here, right? So how do you avoid cold calling? Just like I said before, obviously with our influencers, because they are influencers, if you're closing for somebody else, they already have a big brand awareness. Like think of like somebody on Shark Tank. Like if you were closing for one of the sharks on Shark Tank, right? Obviously everyone knows who they are. So it's not necessarily cold calling. If you're calling in the blue, and let's say it was like Mark Cuban, right? And you're just calling somebody out of the blue, be like, oh my gosh, you're on Mark Cuban's team? Like, I love Mark Cuban. I watch Shark Tank, right? So yes, you're calling them out of the blue, but it's not like you're calling somebody who's never heard of Shark Tank, who's never heard of Mark Cuban before in their life, right? So you kind of have that leveraging power. And that's why when outbounding, when you're doing it for influencers, then, it's considered warm calling. It's not really cold calling. So don't get freaked out by, oh gosh, cold calling. Like, no. If you're doing it for somebody else, leverage their brand. Use whatever you can to your advantage. And if you're not doing it for an influencer, right, and you do want to do it for yourself, for your own business, it's very simple, right? You want to incorporate a funnel. You want to do some kind of video or VSL that's going to warm them up to your services, get them excited about what it is that you're offering. So now when you reach out to them, right, so if I were to do my own video, or let's say like this one, Like, let's say hypothetically this video right now, and let's say I had the means to be able to contact each and every one of you that's watching this video. If I were to pick up the phone and introduce myself and say, hey, it's Dylan. I saw that you watched my video on YouTube. I just wanted to see how you liked it or if you had any questions, right? Is that considered cold calling? No, because you just saw me in this video. You at least know who I am, building this relationship with you right now. You're like, oh gosh, Dylan, hey, what's up? Yeah, I saw the video. I loved it. Or you can say, no, Dylan, all your videos suck and I hate it. That's cool. Thank you so much for the feedback. I appreciate it. I always love feedback. I love growing. I love improving. So that's okay. But you get the point, right? So when you master this, if you use some kind of leverage, then you're actually warm calling and not cold calling. So moral of the story, I put morale. I spelt that incorrectly. That's okay. But the moral of the story is, obviously, if you have your own business, you need to incorporate outbounds ASAP into your closing process, right? 7x return is absolutely nuts, absolutely insane. You do not want to miss out on that type of revenue. And also, if you don't have your own business and you want to use this as a skill set for closing, right? If you're wanting to master closing as a skill set, guys, and become more valuable in the marketplace, you must learn outbound sales. Add it to your arsenal of skills to really separate you from the herd of other people so that you can stand out to influencers, you can stand out to businesses. If you're watching this video and you just want to learn sales and you want to get a job, right? Go to the interview and do what I am telling you right now. Go to the job and tell them, look, to separate myself from all these other people, all these other applicants, I'm willing to put myself to the test to show you that I want to earn your trust, that I will pick up the phone and I will dial, and you are going to wow them. You're going to land the interview. You're going to land the job. You're going to separate yourself from the pack, right? And then you're going to have this balanced skill set of while you're working there, right? You can still take the inbound calls, but you know what? If it's dead and no inbounds are coming in and you have free time, guess what you get to do? Leverage your outbound to go and make money and print it on freaking demand on your time, your schedule to attain whatever goal that you see fit. As long as you're willing to put in the dials, you are going to absolutely win. It's nuts. So if you found this valuable, please go ahead, give me a damn thumbs up on the video, okay? And subscribe to my channel so you can see more. Make sure you turn on bell notifications. I want to be able to put more videos like this out there, more content to be able to give value to you. But more importantly, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Share any questions that you have, right? Or anything that you might want me to cover in a video. I am super happy to do that for you. Answer, I get messages, I get DMs all the time, which gives me ideas like this to be able to do these awesome videos for you guys. So definitely subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I will see you guys on the next video.